At first, starting 9 Souls was solely for my YouTube channel. I was in dire need of content and thought, that's a cute looking game, and since half of my subscribers are Hollow Knight fans, how about I give it a try? I'll play for a couple of hours, find some facts about it, or talk about aesthetics or something, and on to the next game. What could possibly go wrong? Now 5 days later, I'm sitting here, unable to write anything. This game is so beautiful that I want to cry, because for a long time, I had forgotten the real feeling of playing video games. You know what I mean? That amazing experience I'm sure most of you had when you were a child playing GTA, or if you're an old fart like me, playing Tiny Toon on Sega Genesis. The absolute joy of exploring a world ahead of you, a long and dangerous journey with beautiful scenery, amazing soundtracks, and entertaining enemies. Back when video games weren't about milking the gamers, or pushing an ideology, or console wars. I remember now. I remember everything. All thanks to this little fella. I can see how I'm going to make tens of videos about 9 Souls. So this one is just a love letter to the developers who made this masterpiece and still care about their audience. Hello, my name is Old Soul and I try to look at games from an artistic point of view. Or maybe autistic. I don't know. If you enjoyed, please like and subscribe. 9 Souls is a Souls-like, Sekiro-like, Hollow Knight-like Metroidvania. But in the meantime, it's none of them. Did you ever see photos like this and wish to have a 2D platformer Dark Souls or Sekiro? Then 9 Souls is everything you wanted and more. We control Yi, a powerful hero who seeks to revenge the 9 rulers of New Kunlun. With these names, it's not hard to realize 9 Souls is inspired by Chinese and Eastern culture. Speaking of China, I should point out that the Taiwanese devs of 9 Souls had another game called Devotion. In that game, there was an Easter egg that marked Xi Jinping, General Secretary of China's Communist Party. So the Chinese cyber army and keyboard warriors started writing negative comments about the game until it was removed from Steam. I think it wouldn't be fair to mention Chinese mythology and not talk about how the Chinese government tried to demolish Red Candle Studio. Back to our own subject, 9 Souls is a combination of ancient culture with futuristic technology. It's like in this world, technology tapped into mythical and metaphysical forces and employed it in a scientific approach. We'll talk about that in a minute. The game is elegant, but also wild. Just like any Souls-like, 9 Souls is set in a vast lore-like world. The game starts with Yi falling off a cliff and dying. Then these black thingies called primordial roots resurrect him and put him in hibernation for hundreds of years until a young boy named Chunchun woke him up. Now, Yi seeks to take revenge on the people who made him suffer. The narrative is told in 3 formats. These dialogue events, the explanation we receive for each item, and what I absolutely love the most, these manga panels which are just amazing. Of course, we have some cutscenes of Yi's memories with his sister, back when the Souls hadn't turned their backs on him. 9 Souls is so rich in terms of story, so let's leave the lore for another long and detailed video and move on to gameplay. 9 Souls is deeply inspired by Sekiro and Hollow Knight. Unlike most devs, Red Candle isn't trying to hide it. They're proud of what they did, so we have to look at the gameplay from 3 aspects. First, the Sekiro aspect. 9 Souls borrows its fighting mechanics from all Soulsborne games, but mostly Sekiro. If you don't know, what makes Sekiro different than other Souls games is the fluid movements and fast-paced fights. Dark Souls was hard, sure, but it was so slow that when the boss would charge, you had time to think what to do. Of course, in exchange, if you didn't manage to figure something out, you would easily lose half of your health. Sekiro was less punishing, but instead, everything was fast, so you had to take thousands of hits until you fixed your response time. 9 Souls found a balance between the two. You're fast, but not that fast, but it's still as punishing as Dark Souls. Sekiro was based on parrying, but you could just run around the arena and hit the enemy once or twice. You could deny your fate and play it like a Dark Souls. 9 Souls won't let you do that. Maybe you can defeat some simple enemies with dodging, but not the bosses. This boss specifically forces you to learn how to parry and counter, and by the time you defeat him, you've become a master of parry and don't want to play the game in any other way. Going on to the next, the Hollow Knight aspect. There's no trace of Hollow Knight in the fighting mechanics, but we can see its influence in other places. To name a few, Jades, which are similar to charms, the linear movement system, which gives you almost no momentum, so you have great control over your character. The art design is similar as this one is hand-drawn too, but we'll get to that later. And last but not least, the placing of the platform system. Most Metroidvania games have intertwined and interconnected areas, but Hollow Knight placed its platforms economically, and so does Nine Souls. They don't just put their platforms everywhere. For each one, there's only one way to reach, and the idea is that you need different abilities for each area. When you gain a new skill, all these new places unlock and change the big picture. The third aspect is about how Nine Souls separates itself from the other two and finds its own identity. In my opinion, the fingerprint of the game, that is the most iconic feature, is the talisman explosives. It's an enjoyable and unique way to attack the enemy, and it feels like this. Another unique feature that I like is internal damage. When your parries are inaccurate and have a bad timing, you'll get internal damage. It's like direct damage with one difference. If you don't get hit again, that part of your health slowly gets refilled. So this is like the game telling us that we don't completely suck, just a little bit. Mid-air attacks remind me of Devil May Cry and how you could stay in the air while shooting with ebony and ivory. Some enemies have a more powerful move called Crimson Attack, which you can't parry, but if you jump in the right time, you can counter it mid-air. I think that's unique for Nine Souls, but you might compare it to how lightning attacks would be countered in Sekiro. Alright, that's enough for gameplay. Let's take a walk to the visual side of the game. Nine Souls marries technology and tradition. In each room you enter, you see the Easter architecture filled with technological stuff. A dragon carries your boat. That's pretty mythological. But wait, you have to tame the dragon with technology. The enemy has a traditional armor and spear. But wait, his shield is made out of force field. Soul Seal is a mythical item. But wait, it's stored in a technological storage. This duality is rooted deep into every aspect of the game. You can feel the same phenomenon in the music too. The soundtracks are inspired by Eastern culture, but in a more modern vessel. The game's color palette consists of three main colors: red, green, and yellow. They elegantly use these three to create a great immersion effect. Most of the time, we only see two of them in each area. One is the dominant color, and the other acts as a contrast. Unlike most of the Souls-like games that look like a dead man's saliva, Nine Souls uses vibrant colors and makes it so eye-catching. They claim everything is hand-drawn, which is crazy, given the amount of details and motion effects it has. Just look how elaborate and detailed this simple attack is. Hand-drawing all of this is crazy. I think that's enough flattery for Nine Souls. Let's talk a little about the cons now. Since we're in this subject, I have a little problem with the colors. In some places, like Ape Man Village and Four Seasons Pavilion, that pattern of three colors disappears and you see lots of new and different ones, which makes it cartoonish and in a bad way. It's ugly and ruins the vibe. I don't know why this room, which is very important to the game, was designed so badly. The other areas are fine with that duochrome palette. Just look how these rooms are stylish and, sorry for overusing this word, and elegant. While this looks like it came from this enchantment animation. Another issue I have is with the map. The map of Nine Souls is terrible. I mean the worst. Not only it's not helpful at all, but it even confuses me with its bad design. It absolutely has no detail and is wrong on so many levels. I know that if you bring some chips to this robot, the map unlocks and you can see everything in it. But that's stupid. I need the map to find my way. Now that I've explored every corner of this area and got lost for 10 minutes, what the heck do I need the map for? My last problem with Nine Souls is a technological one. The game is poorly optimized. Every room takes up to 10 seconds to load, which is crazy for a side-scroller. At first, I thought I got baited to buy a Bethesda game. Dear Red Candle, you say you were inspired by Hollow Knight. Why didn't you get inspired by its smoothness? Even with all that said, Nine Souls is still a masterpiece, and for me, to this moment it's the best game of 2024. Definitely recommend it, and I give it 10 out of 10. If you enjoyed, please hit the like button, and if you want to see more videos about Nine Souls, Hollow Knight and other platformer games, subscribe to my channel. Thank you, and as always,
be safe, friend. Don't you dare go alone.
No, it's not over. In my last video, I talked about 3 similar games to Katana Zero. Unfortunately, I hadn't played Nine Souls then, and now I think this is the best alternative to that game. But anyway, if you're a Katana Zero fan, go watch that video. Okay, thanks, goodbye.